Thank you very much, my brother Chairman, Bwana Paul Jogona. Thank you very much, Chairman, my brother Paul Jogona, and all the other officials, council members, Bwana Ruben Getahi, and Madam Anne Wageshi, pamoja na all the other chairs of the various counties, all the CPAs, FCPA, all the FCPAs and CPAs who are here, and the students. Good evening. It's good that I came early to also listen in, because one thing I never knew, which I have now known today, albeit late, I wish I knew this earlier, is that you can actually be a CPA and be a comedian at the same time. These two zeros, zero ishi. Narogama zeros. Tuwapigie makofi tafadhali. And daddy amewapia muketi. I've come with my phone so that I time myself. Sitaki kuongea sana leo. Nataka pia tuongee kidogo, alafu from there tuulizane maswali kidogo, alafu from there to socialize kidogo. I had told Chairman sitakuwa na haraka sana, but I've learned tomorrow morning again we have another engagement. So this fellow here, you know, mtu anaweza kuona na suti aone wewe ni CEO wa what company, lakini kumbe unaweza ongeza watu maisha namna hiyo. Lakini unajua all his dancing ni pahali moja tu. Not that you are a better dancer than us, only that you are more endowed. Kachini. Then zero vile amefanya nikiongea for an hour, but because of him I will talk for 20 minutes, kwa sababu amekava yote. Na the beauty, akona kipawa sina. Anajifanya ati anaongea mambo ya betting na ni atu arasha pia. Ati merago ati aka no akunyaneire makahe ore yitwa wewe. But I have really enjoyed kuja. So we talked with the chairman and we had some of you in my office the other day. Na tukaongea mambo mengi. Wakanieleza sasa kwa sababu tuko na program and the other speakers. Nikawauliza sasa, what do I talk about? Because I don't want to go around so many things. And they told me talk about macroeconomics kidogo, the global scenario in the economy and markets, talk about investments. But they told me, don't forget to talk about shares. Kwa sababu wengi wetu tumenunua tuko na joto kwa tumbo. Kwa sababu missiles za Iran ni kama zingine zinaanguka huko. So that's the reason why I'm here, and I'll try to condense and compress. But I have to say that I am very pleased to be part of this team. If there is one day there'll be honorary CPAs, I know I might be nominated to get one, because I am now almost a member of his pack. And when the Muranga team was up starting being introduced by Daktari, the reason I didn't want to leave my seat is because siku anataka kuruka mbele ya darama, because I'm not yet what you are, and it's good to admit that you guys are learned. Tukafanya hesabu gumu sana. Tukiwa university, I used to see some people rushing to KCA to do CPS, as we chose a different path. So we should heshimu that you have done what you never did. Of course, I am a member of parliament for Kiharu, as you know, and it's good for you to know, some of you who are not there in Mombasa, that Kiharu is a large constituency, one of the largest in actually this region. because primary schools alone are over 112. And I want to confirm to you because accountants, the name or the word accountant came from being accountable. And being accountable is saying what you are doing. Out of all our public primary schools, which are many, all of them are tiled. All of them. Zinakaa hapa chini. Na tumefanya zote zikakuwa kama academy in terms of that kind of works. Many facilities, good infrastructure, and they are well done. We have 65 day secondary schools covering over 12,000 learners in Kiharu. And I want to confirm again that fee in Kiharu for all our day scholars is only 500 per term, 500 shillings. And the bulk of the other money is supported by Kiharu NGCDF and a program we call Kiharu Masomo Bora. And out of that 500 learners sit in school from Monday to Saturday, because we also want them to go to school on Saturday for remedial. And they actually take a mix of githeri rice within the week, and the last Friday of the month they eat chapati. I'm not promising them, they have been eating, so sio ile ya kusema ni ile ya kufanya. Na yetu tunafanya na jiko. Every school has a jiko, so we never had to procure any machine. So it's doable. It's doable using the local resources. And we have now 65 institutions which we've been able to kabro. Zile picha mnaona za kabro tunawekaga every holiday. We've now done up to 65 institutions, and we'll be doing others in April, others in August. Is work that is continuous, and it's always work in progress. Now, to come back to the point of today, I was in the UN today morning talking to comrades, and especially young men who are in the university. And I was rushing to catch time because chairman had told me to go hapa by 2. But I'm glad you are able to cover many more things before we came. Na hatukuwachelewesha because the program was running. And for that reason, I'll try to go direct to the point. And I don't want to refer to notes because I want to have a conversation for us to understand macro-wise, macroeconomy, because most of the decisions we make in investments and the decisions we make in the organizations we are leading and spearheading, there's financial side, is the fact that even if you are a water company, or you are a consulting firm, or you are a bank, or you are Kenya Power, I've had their CPs from Kenya Power who are here. You don't operate just because of your entity. You operate because you are part of the bigger scale of things, nationally and internationally. Unfortunately, many times, we don't give a lot of weight to the things that happen even globally. Yet they come to affect us like they are happening outside of our doorstep. Some of the things that actually happen globally, they end up affecting us more than all the plans we could have in our own singular companies. So it's always important to understand what the world is doing, where the world is going, because ultimately it reaches on your table, including your food. It reaches in your pocket, in your wallet, and in your bank account. Part of the reason why I am going backwards to come forward is because many of the decisions that I also make in terms of leadership, but also in terms of investments, I have to tire my mind a little bit to look at the globe. I can't talk about which share. I can't talk about where I'm getting a job. The students who are here can't talk about where the opportunities are without in isolation of your own village and your own country. It can't work because the world moves like wind. Even if you wanted to do something around the direction of the wind, you can only navigate around where the wind is going, not against, unless then you want to do extra work. So, the global economy has been on what we call monetary tightening for some time. Since Corona, all the economies of the world lowered interest rates to accommodate Corona. Because every time there is a global shock in the economy, and the economy needs to be incentivized to grow. Wakati unataka kukuza uchumi, The one tool that is usually available for any government is interest rates. So what do you do with interest rates? You lower them. You lower them with the hope of putting money in the pockets of people, making money cheap. When money is cheap, it is accessible. When money is accessible, people spend because they can access money cheaply. And out of that expenditure, the people in government hope that that expenditure will spur production. Because I'll take more soda, I'll take more water, I'll buy more new shoes. So out of that consumerism comes from production. So they hope out of that the consuming will spur the production side. So out of now that, what is called monetary easing, which was there during Corona time. So the world was awash with money. Either through interest rates, others were being given free money. Free, meaning not just interest rate is zero, even the cost of the money was zero. Like in the US, they had what was called COVID checks. Can you imagine free money? Not you work for. Government is soothing you to spend. So in the hope of soothing you to spend, they actually give you money to spend free. So what happened in the US economy? Because so much money was chasing so few goods, inflation came up in the US, and in the entire world, inflation started to climb up. To tame that inflation, all the economies of the world again started to tighten. Tighten means you raise interest rate. After raising interest rate at some point again, so in this era, before Iran, the entire world was through monetary easing. Interest rates in CPR were coming down. US Federal Reserve rate was coming down. The central bank of the European Central Bank was easing. China was easing. So the entire world before Iran has been going through monetary easing. Interest rates have been coming down. I'm sorry for these jargons, but there's no point I go to which year you can buy. It doesn't make sense if you don't understand what is it that you must always look for. Secondly, now we come to Kenya. And I'm talking about forward, not necessarily history. Kenya is here. We've been doing monetary easing, lowering interest rate, higher. Our inflation has been seeming manageable for the last few months. But now we are where we are today. So an economy growing at around 5% GDP. So inflation has been within the benchmark. Benchmark inflation in Kenya is around 5%, but they give a band of 2.5% either way. So up to 7.5%, up to 2.5% down. Now, inflation has been three things. One is fuel, the other one is food, the other one is called co-inflation. So food inflation is when we demand more food, but we can't produce that much food. So food prices go up. So fuel inflation is everything about fuel. Transport, fuel itself, it has been stable for some time until next month. Until next month. We've been saying we have done well with dollar, etc. Those two stories. I'll mention about that story just now. So, inflation is three things. Food, fuel, coal. So, two things touch the mwananchi direct. Food inflation and fuel inflation. And they are the most volatile across the world. Coal inflation doesn't touch the general population too much because it's about imports, majorly. It's about things that are not food and fuel. Now, that has been good up to mid next month. And I'm telling you this because you are CPAs. In the organizations you work, you stop now thinking about Kenya the way you were thinking before next month mid. I'm forward. When you do PE ratio, there is something called forward and trading. So I'm talking forward. Start adjusting your decision making from mid of next month because things will change. Both on the inflation side and also interest rate side, and also later in the year on the currency. But let me come back to the currency first due to understandiane kidogo. And I'm keeping mentioning stories for the jargons, but I have to do this first. Some of them did economics. Very good. All. So munasika vitu nasema. No wonder you are so attentive, I'm wondering why is no one sleeping? So hizi vitu nasema munaelewa. But we need to remind ourselves. Now, the reason I came is for us to have a talk based on the decision you are going to make today. I didn't want us to have a short lecture. Alikuwa hapa akatuongeleza story ya sia zile anaongeanga hapana. I want us to start now refining our decision making in the organizations we work for. So Kenya has been lucky for the last 4 years. Kenya has been lucky because the world has been lucky. The world has been lucky to have oil per barrel by December was $55 per barrel. So as of Friday yesterday, Brent was around $113 per barrel. So now out of that being lucky, we've been hearing a story you have heard from every government official. We have been able to stabilize the Kenya shillings against the dollar. And those are the short stories. Now this is the thing. Because Netaka, all these points you made them together to guide your decision making, including for investments. In 2022, that is when the world witnessed the highest price of oil per barrel. This barrel is the same one we end up buying in the petrol station. So it's the same barrel that gets you when you are fueling the car. In May, it was around almost $120 per barrel. In 2022, the year of elections. So the subsidy you hear came around that time because it was unbearable during a political year and the incumbent had political interest for them to just leave the oil prices to be market driven. Now, that of course brought inflation. So by the time you are doing elections in August, the USD to Kenya, the Kenya shillings to USD was 119 to 120 shillings per dollar. Now it is 129, 128 up to 130. Between a dollar of 119 and a dollar of 130, which is stronger? Where is the Kenya shilling stronger? 119. Very good. But now this is the catch. If you go with your phone anytime, you check about how the currency has performed, the greenback, the dollar. In 1 year alone, which is 2025, the dollar lost 10% against a basket of global currencies. So the dollar lost 10%. So forget if the Kenya shillings just stood where it was and the dollar loses 10%, it means out of 119 which was there, 119, 90% of 119, we should be talking about 100 shillings to the greenback. And the best way to qualify that statement, in August of 2022, the dollar was 119. Euro was 116 shillings to 1 euro. But now around 149 to 151. The British pound was around 136 in August of 2022. But it's now 171 to 174. So I'm talking about this so that we see where our macros are, not based on what the politician says, but based on what the reality is. Because even that then affects your decision making as an investor and also as a policy maker in your organization. Now, come here to what you must look for also. And I'm already talking about investments in your office. If you check all the global investors, Warren Buffett, Bridgewater, all of them, because they do simulations of what happens in the world over 500 years back, You realize some of these investors almost accurately so claim that the global economy always have a reset, either a recession of some kind or some cold every 7 to 10 years. So every 7 to 10 years, you'll have a boom, but then a near bust. So from 2000 financial crisis, 2007, 2008, you remember now again, resets can come out of markets overheating or economies overheating, but they can also come out of unexpected global issues like even Corona. Corona now came and reset our markets without us knowing. But it was a mini reset because it was not market driven. It was more nature driven. And if you look at the tendency of the global economy, if you look at Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway, they have been piling cash for the last 2 years. So Warren Buffett anaambiwa nunua hii, invest pale, anasema nagoja, kuna kitu nagoja. Anapile pesa. Now Berkshire Hathaway has over 300, I think, and 50 billion US dollars, just waiting for an opportunity to buy things cheaper. I'm almost getting there. I'm almost done with the jargons. Now, the reason I've said that, because you are professional in this hall. After you hear me speak, after you hear a senior government official speak, always go to the details. Don't go to the global things we say. Go to the details. So that where you are putting your money and the money for your place, and you are advising, maybe there is an accountant here working for Shell, for Total, so that you know how kujipanga, even you working in a SACCO, working in a microfinance, you actually need this macro data more than the economists in government, because they affect your businesses directly. Always go to data. Dig deeper a little bit. Let me give you an example. Something the government has said in the recent 1 month, which if you don't dig deeper, you then act on ignorance throughout. So we did an IPO for Kenya Pipeline. Kenya did an IPO for Kenya Pipeline. And because nowadays Kenyans are very savvy, Kenyans wakaangalia, wakasema back to the sender. So only 2% of Kenyans participated. Then one day I saw men dressed in suits in a very big office in Nairobi. They were coming to announce to Kenyans, we have had a very successful IPO of Kenya Pipeline, which was 105% oversubscribed. Now, a normal person is just an accountant who does not want to tire. You are our accountants. We will act on that. Hey, Kenya, the markets are very good. Companies are being oversubscribed. Can we also list our company? Maybe you are thinking about listing your company. And then you start fighting for an IPO. But on what information are you fighting an IPO? If you just scratch a little bit, without even digging, just scratching, then you realize this is an IPO which was only subscribed less than 3%. So the other money was political money from Uganda brought by Museveni. Was Museveni buying shares? No. What was he buying? He was buying control. He was buying control. Yes, power. He was buying to control the company. That give me shares, give me board members, but also give me veto power. Of policy, veto power on policy, but also veto power on CEO. And because Kenya was desperate, they signed. So the shareholders' agreement, there's nothing Kenya Pipeline can do without Museveni. So that is the IPO that was successful. The second thing about this IPO that was claimed by government as successful is that if you look at the category of local companies, you see 41% of the shares were bought by local companies. Just ask yourself, oh, you guys here, you work for investment companies. Did any of the one you work for buy? None, unless it's government. Because the 41% listed as government related, as Kenyan companies, was led number 1 by NSSF. Secondly was superannuation fund, pesa tu ya wafanyikazi. 3 was unclaimed assets authority. 4 was Kenya Re. So those are the local companies that they were listed there. So you are there now as